sparkah.com, SPARKAH.com, iPhone app marketing tips. Actually, this isn't so much about marketing tips for iPhone apps, it's more of a comprehensive overall strategy. Because if you had a bunch of little tips, some of those tips won't apply to your app, they won't apply to your market, they won't apply to what you're doing. And if you need some tweaking or changing of these techniques, you may not know how. So let's instead paint a bigger picture, a bigger strategy picture of how to get your iPhone app user base to grow consistently on a daily basis. First of all, let's get some objectivity here. Let's break ourselves out of the iPhone app world and paint a bigger picture so that you know what the landscape, competitive landscape looks like. First of all, if you're one of the very first people to be a user in any disruptive technology space, for instance, eBay was a disruptive technology. If you're one of the very first eBay store owners, you'd be retired by now. That's because as eBay grew, as eBay funding grew, they needed you to represent them. They needed you to be a banner holder for eBay. They needed you to be a portfolio piece for eBay. So as eBay grew, you grew. Same with the iPhone App Store. If you're one of the very first people to have an app, for instance, that simple mirror app, you can still look it up today. I think it made a couple $100,000. If you know exactly what the number is, put it in the video comments below. All it was, it turned your iPhone app into a mirror by turning the screen black so that you could see yourself in the screen. If you were one of the very first YouTubers, you could have a boring video of you dancing. Okay, so that particular video that I'm referring to wasn't so boring. It was pretty well done. You could have a crappy recording, like the one I'm using right now, using my BlackBerry. And as YouTube grew, as YouTube gets bought out by Google, as YouTube funding grows, you will grow with it. Because of the fact that, again, YouTube needs you to be a banner holder for it. It needs you to be a case study for YouTube. It needs you to be one of their first allies. Same with Blogger. If you're one of the very first blogger on the Blogspot network, your blog would have millions of views. Same with WordPress. If you were one of the very first WordPress bloggers, right now you'd have a very stable, very consistent, and large income. In essence, what's happening is that if you had jumped into any disruptive technology as one of the first users, your biggest ally becomes that disruptive platform. So whether it's eBay, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Google, Blogger, WordPress, or the iPhone, iTunes, App Store, their growth is your growth. So the platform itself becomes your biggest ally. Now, if you look at it from a supply and demand perspective, the supply is the app. There are 3 to 4 dozen apps that do exactly the same thing in the iTunes App Store for everything. So there are dozens of social networking, there are dozens of exactly duplicate apps, really for anything. So that being the case, the supply is completely overwhelming. And yet the demand is very saturated. I personally haven't downloaded a new iPhone app in about 3 or 4 months, outside of the ones that I have to download for our clients doing research. So we download several new apps per day for our clients, but for my personal use, I haven't downloaded a new app in a couple months. All I need is Instagram, all I need is TweetDeck, Seismic, and a couple other apps, and I'm done. Path, and I'm done. So how do you cut through the clutter? Well, we know for a fact that your first ally is gone. The platform itself, if it's a mature platform like the iPhone App Store, it doesn't need you as an ally anymore. It was your best ally and you were its best ally. It doesn't need you anymore. So what you need now is a new ally. And this is where the strategy comes in. Your best allies right now, you have 3. You're gonna have to replace the platform. Your 3 biggest allies are, number 1, bloggers. Bloggers are dying to feature interesting content. So you have to package your your app in a way that's interesting to them and relevant to their reader base. Bloggers, number one. Number two, your competitors. Your competitors that have very similar apps that have very similar features to yours, and I'll tell you why in a bit. And number three, your users. Your users are going to be one of your biggest allies. This one's a no-brainer. This one's real simple. The way people find your app, let's say there are 10 million apps that do exactly the same thing that your app does. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter, because if you're the first one that shows up in an iPhone's iTunes App Store search, you're all that counts. The other 10 million apps underneath you won't get downloaded, you'll get downloaded. How that happens is high ratings. So if you begin with superb customer service, and if you get really good ratings and really good reviews, that's what's going to catapult you, boost you up in a search in the App Store. Number one. Number two, bloggers. How you find bloggers? You're going to have to dress up your app in such a way that you become newsworthy and relevant to that blogger's reader base. Now, to find that blogger, there's two things you do. Go to wefollow.com, wefollow.com, and do a keyword search for blogger, and then do a keyword search for whatever industry your particular app targets. Find the intersection, contact them manually. Contact them physically, personally, one by one. Number two, do an advanced Google search. And you're going to have to do the syntax exactly as I'm stating right now. The syntax is site://bio blogger location, and then pick the location that's right for you. You'll end up with hundreds and hundreds of bloggers that precisely target and speak to and write to exactly your user base. Number three was your competitor. The reason why your competitor becomes your best ally in this case is because you can network. The differences in features that you have are going to be pivotal, are going to be absolutely necessary in your ability to share user base. And if you have differences in features for other utilities, other apps, contact other app owners and make alliances, make strategic partnerships to use each other's user base, to share user base, and to share buzz, to talk about your products to your own bases. So it's really noisy here. I got to run to another meeting, so I'm going to leave this off here. If you want to contact me, you can reach me through sparka.com/marketing.php. Sparka, SPARKAH.com/marketing.php.